Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Schwartz, and I'm the founder of Meditive. Medi stands for medicine, and tive stands for preventative. So, at Meditive, we want to teach you the benefits of preventative medicine. Preventative medicine is basically how diet and lifestyle can prevent and even reverse some diseases. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of health, and we're going to focus on diet and exercise. And I have the honor to have on our podcast Sachi, aka the Colorful Coach. She's a plant-based health coach, and she's going to teach us all about the benefits of plant-based nutrition and exercise for long-term health. Hey, Sachi, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, good. We're so happy to have you on our podcast. Can you first introduce yourself just the way you want?
Certainly. Thank you for having me, first of all. My name is Sachi Georgieva. I'm a plant-based nutrition and health coach, and I focus on healthy habits with my clients because that's really what diet and lifestyle changes are, is essentially just switching your habits and adopting new ways of going about your day-to-day life.
Nice. So you mentioned that you're a plant-based coach. Were you always plant-based? How did you become plant-based if you weren't always plant-based? And why did you choose to be plant-based?
I definitely was not always plant-based. I'm coming up on, how long has it been? I think it's been 4.5 years now of being fully plant-based. The way I came into it was a little bit random. It was sort of decided to do a month with no meat for practical reasons, more like my husband didn't like eating meat, and I felt like if I don't cut it out on purpose, I probably will never learn how to cook other things. So it's just like a kind of on a whim, like a month to learn how to cook other things, and then I felt really, really good without eating meat, which is a surprise for me. And so after that month ended, I was like, I don't really see why I would bring it back because I'm
Mhm.
feeling very nice. My digestion felt calmer than it used to. And then the next sort of 6 months was like me just learning a lot more about animal agriculture, like the industry, like where our food comes from. It's not anything I grew up knowing about or thinking about.
Mhm.
And so that was all new to me. And then I just gradually sort of like started replacing the animal foods with a lot more plant foods and learning how to do that.
Mhm.
So 6 months later, it was like 100% plant-based and vegan. And then at that point, I got really, really into nutrition. Once I cut out all of the animal products, I felt like even better than just without meat. And I have a background as a personal trainer. And a lot of the things took me by surprise because I had the opposite mindset going in where I sort of was like, that I think a lot of people have, where you're like,
Mhm.
what would be missing? What wouldn't I be getting? I need to like make sure that I'm getting everything I need. And then even without me like overly trying to be into nutrition, I was getting so many more nutrients and my body was functioning so much better that I've just like something switched in my brain where I was like, I can't believe I never realized like the importance of nutrition alongside my fitness training. We're told that it's really important for our health, but I feel like when you have that like tangible proof in your body,
Mhm.
it makes the biggest difference. And so that's actually how I got into nutrition, was by going plant based.
Nice. And so when you went plant-based, what are the biggest physical changes that you've seen? So you said that you felt so much better, but what happened that made you feel better? What did you feel when you went plant-based that you didn't feel where when you were eating meat? And also you mentioned that you got interested in like our food system. So what did you learn about that? So kind of like two
Um,
different
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. So the physical differences, as I said, when it was just cutting out meat alone, that was just like a lightness in my digestive system that I never really felt before. And so it's one of those things where like you're just used to what you're used to. Like you wouldn't even necessarily know that something was wrong, even if it doesn't feel
Mm,
great. You're just like, it's your normal. So
yeah.
that's what it was for me when I cut out meat, where it was like when I went to bed at night, it didn't feel heavy. I didn't feel that like I used to have like like a loud stomach. Like at night,
Mm,
my stomach would be making noise, and it was sort of a
interesting.
lifelong thing. I thought that that was normal, kind of weird, but like for me, normal.
Hmm.
And I didn't have that anymore. So that was one thing. And then Cutting out dairy was a huge one for me just because I was already lactose intolerant. So I was
Mm.
already sort of, just because I liked dairy and, culturally you're used to eating what you're eating and everyone loves cheese, like all of those things
Especially
were
the
definitely
French
true for me.
people.
Yes. Oh my
Especially
God,
the French people who love
absolutely.
our cheese.
Yes. So it was one of those things that I used to say before I would eat things like, oh, I'll just suffer later. Like I would say it like as a joke, but it was true. Like I would suffer later. So the biggest thing with cutting out dairy obviously was the digestion improvement, where it was just like not a problem for me anymore. And then I had acne since I was like from adolescence into adulthood. And I always kind of thought that that would be a thing that stuck with me forever, but my skin cleared up. And that was the first time I realized like what an impact that was having on my skin. Not like it's perfect now, but just that was a huge
Yeah.
trigger for me, definitely in terms of cystic acne.
Mm.
Um, so those were the biggest physical things. And then I would say in terms of like energy, like getting, because I always, say and believe like food is fuel for our bodies. So like getting the most from that fuel, definitely there was a shift in that. So I was like recovering from workouts faster, feeling like I had more energy for workouts. I did have less soreness in the beginning. That's less true now. But it felt a little bit like a cheat code
Mm.
for fitness. It definitely like, and it makes sense now that I know about nutrition. You're eating so many more anti-inflammatory foods. You're eating a lot of antioxidants. It's just, the right flow of things coming in and out. So
Yeah.
yeah, those were the physical changes. What was the second piece that you had asked?
So you said that when you went plant-based, you then learned about the food
Oh
system.
yes.
And so
Yeah. So
what's wrong
I
with the
think,
food system and especially with meat and
I
dairy?
mean, I hesitate to use the word wrong because I would like people to look at it for themselves and decide.
Yes.
I find it to be very inefficient
Mm-hmm.
and just generally violent. And it's one of those things that it's very easy, I never, when you see the thing in front of you on a plate, it's very disconnected from where it came from. And I do think that that's on purpose. And in other places of the world, I think they're much more connected to the process in a way that we're
Mm-hmm.
not. Even if they eat animal products, they at least are interacting and seeing the animals that the food come from. Whereas here, it's hidden away. It's illegal to even like look into it. And so, yeah, it was just the first time that I realized like the big machine of animal agriculture and like what it takes in this country to feed, 300 plus million people. And when you look at the animal model versus growing plants that can go directly for food, I do find it to be silly. I just find it to be silly the way that we do it. It's incredibly
Mm-hmm.
wasteful. It's really, really bad for the environment, which
Yeah.
I care about a lot. And in California, we're like seeing the effects of this kind of thing all of the time. So that was when I made the conscious choice that like, well, I don't really want to be contributing to that anymore, and I'll go in this direction.
Yeah.
And it worked out. Like, thankfully, plants are very healthy, so
Yeah,
it's good.
no, it's perfect. And I was wondering, so when you became plant-based, weren't you kind of scared to see your, because you're a health and training coach, but
Hmm.
you weren't scared to see your performance decrease as an athlete or?
I have to say I did have that fear, which is so silly looking back. But one of the things that like swayed me, I remember at the time, was seeing vegan bodybuilders.
Mm,
And so that was one of the things where I was like, once I knew it was possible to maintain a certain level of muscle with plant-based foods, that was when I was like, oh, okay, then no problem. Because that like sort of vain piece of me that did, I have worked to maintain a certain level of strength over the years. And
mhm,
then once I realized like it's a myth that you're going to lose it or that you're not going to get enough protein, all of those things, it was
mhm.
quite easy to go all in.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I want to dive into what you kind of health coaching you do. So, can you walk through a typical day in your life where you
Sure.
do your health coaching and your sport coach? What's the difference first between being a training coach and a health coach, and do you
Hmm.
combine both? And what's your typical job as a training coach and as a health coach with your clients?
Okay. So right now it's a mix of both because I am trying to sort of transition from just the fitness piece of it into the diet and lifestyle piece of it. So I do have more like my base business still is my personal training business, and I'm trying to build up the health coaching thing, but that's a whole world of building up a business. So typical day is I have at least a few personal training clients. They're usually in the morning. Some of them are in the afternoon. And then the health coaching clients are fit in where they can. So those are less frequent phone calls. They're once a week,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're first starting out. There's like a maintenance plan where we can like check in, in longer spurts of time. But once a week, we're doing check-ins. So the fitness ones, one-on-one, it's really just like being at the gym with a trainer and I'm just taking you through exercises. I don't really get into too many, like I like to like plant seeds about lifestyle with my
Mm-hmm.
fitness clients, but I'm not explicitly coaching them on what they're doing outside of me. It's more about like, we're doing these exercises, this is your activity
Mm-hmm.
for the day. And then with the health coaching clients, it's much more broad in terms of the scope of their health. So we do like an intro call where we get into like, you guys have the 5 pillars and I have my own little template for
Yeah.
just looking at the different aspects of your life and which things we want to focus on. So I do
Mm-hmm.
mostly focus on diet and exercise if they want input on the exercise,
Mm-hmm.
because I can make workout plans for people or just encourage them to move their bodies in whatever ways actually fit into their lifestyle. So the health coaching, a lot of it is dealing with people's expectations of the changes they want to make versus the changes that would be the most sustainable for them. Because I think it's easy to get really excited. It's like every New Year's, you see people make their resolutions
Yeah.
and you get really excited about like overhauling your whole life and doing all the things. And then people get burnt out and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of forget about it by February. And the goal is to make these small enough changes that they actually get incorporated into your life. It doesn't feel like a big overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
If a year goes by, maybe looking back, you would say that's a huge, oh, I've made so many changes. But it's like one small thing at a time, inching away and making sure it's like a graspable goal for you rather than this huge, unattainable goal that I think can feel and is overwhelming for people if it's, too many things at once or too big of a change at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. And I was wondering, so what do you think is most important between nutrition and exercise? Is there something more important than another? And how do you balance both? Do you
That is such a tough
prioritize?
question. Yeah, I would, if I were like, I would say both always. Like you should always be
Mhm.
focused on both always. But I do think nutrition has like a little bit of an edge up on exercise just in terms of what it can do like very quickly for you
Mhm.
in terms of your health. So just like tweaking tiny things where it's like a little thing where if you're going to do like whole grains instead of refined grains,
Mhm.
or subbing out like an animal-based protein for a plant-based protein,
Mhm.
like even just getting rid of cholesterol in your diet and lowering saturated fat, like that's a huge shift that it can make in your physicality, without you changing anything in your actual, physical routine.
Yeah.
Um, but also exercise, they're so important for you. So our bodies are meant to move. And I think we just
Mhm.
live in a world where we're quite sedentary. There's just less reasons to move. So we have to do it on purpose. So I definitely encourage people to do it on purpose and to find a way. I always say like, to move your body in a way that brings you joy. Like you don't have to like love it while you're doing it, but it has to be something that you're not dreading doing
Mhm.
for you to do it
Yeah.
consistently. Yeah.
Very interesting. And I was wondering, so with your clients, do you recommend the same kind of exercise and the same kind of sport to everyone? Is there one kind of sport that can work for everyone, or is it always totally 100% personalized for every of your client?
They're usually personalized. Like I do like to say, like just like as a base recommendation, I do think everyone should do some form of strength training. It's really good for our bone health and our bodies to have
Mm-hmm.
some strength. And even though cardio is also important, there are like strength exercises that are also good for your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when I'm training women, I feel like we're not like encouraged as much as men, like, stereotypically to work on muscles,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really, really important for our health. So I do recommend that for everyone. The form of exercise, I'm very open to people being flexible with it. So, like, I'm very aware that the way that I work out isn't necessarily going to work for everyone, but I feel like experiment and like have fun with it. Like, if you know that you are a social person and that's what's going to get you to do the thing, is that like you want to show up for the teacher or for the other people in the class, like try some classes and see if that's the thing for you. If you know that you like really like to be alone, like that's like me. I'm not huge. I could take a class, but I'm not like huge on classes. I prefer to be like in my head, in my body, you know, focused on myself.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, and then you can come up with a routine that you know like and that soothes you or is a good challenge for you. Like you can find the level that actually is your like sweet spot
Mhm.
of difficulty, but like that you can do it. And then there's like, you know, yoga, Pilates. There's all types of like forms that I think I would encourage people to get curious about what they like. Like just try a few things, see what you like, and don't put too much like, you know, pressure on like the right thing to do. Like first, just find something that you even could do consistently, and then try to do it consistently. And if not, just keep, you know, bouncing around, find other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like physical training has to be personalized, and it's not enough just to go on YouTube and watch YouTube videos of workouts. Because, for example, I try to do that, and usually it's too easy or it's way too hard,
mm-hmm.
and so that's why, like, I personally believe that we need to build up the strength and then improve, and then while we improve over time, then make the exercise maybe a little more difficult, but
Definitely.
we need to like build up this strength. And when we go on YouTube and we see the videos, we don't
Yeah, it's
have,
not customized.
yeah, it's not customized, and we don't, they
Yeah.
don't tell us, oh, but first, if you want to get to this point, what I'm
Yes.
doing, you first have to like spend months on doing other types of exercise to build up the muscles before you can do another exercise without damaging your,
Yeah, without injury. I do think that's the hard
without
thing about
injuring.
group training versus a one-on-one, is that you are trying to sort of give this like blanket exercise. Even if you're giving substitutions, it's just hard to know like what everyone's body is going through, because you have to give it to multiple people. So yeah, that's challenging.
Yeah. And so do you track the evolution of your patient, of your client? Um, how do you
Yeah, definitely.
track the
So some of them,
improvement?
it depends on the person's goals and then also how long we're training. So there are some where it's sort of like they have like a shorter term goal and you just know there's like a window of time you're going to be working with someone. But a lot of my client, like my long term that I've had for years clients, it's just like the reason that they've stayed signed on with me is so that that's their commitment to move their
Mm,
body. So they sort of know at this point, like they haven't done it on their own and they want to pay for the commitment to
mm-hmm.
make sure like 3 times a week they're moving their body. So at that point, they all have a base level of strength, like they're from where they started, you know, they already know their progress. But then you do hit this sort of window of like just trying to keep it challenging enough without
Mm-hmm.
always having to feel like you have to like level up, you know, because they
Yeah.
hit a level that they feel good about.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
do you feel like we have to always improve, or is there a time where we can finally just maintain the level
I
that we
definitely think maintenance is like a totally valid goal.
have?
It helps to have that like improvement thing. So much of this comes down to like what kind of personality you are, because
Mm-hmm.
that can be like super motivating for a person, or for a different person, it could like shut them off from wanting to do it. Like they
Yeah.
want to feel more like they're taking it easy on themselves. But so like knowing yourself and what you find motivating is the most
Yeah.
important thing there. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And what about, what advice would you give to someone who knows that they have to move their body? They know they have to exercise, and they've tried strength training or running and all this kind of exercise that people commonly do, but they really don't, they genuinely don't like it. They're having a bad time when they do that. What
Hmm.
advice would you give them? Because they know that moving is important for them, but they want to
Yeah.
enjoy it, and they genuinely
They
don't enjoy
don't. Yeah. I've had clients like this who they just don't like exercise and they tell me flat out that they don't like it. So I do think that that's fair. Like maybe you don't, to be honest with you, I don't like at this point, I can say this because I've been doing it consistently enough. Like I don't love it. I don't always look forward to it. It is one
it.
of those things, much like brushing your teeth, that you just know that you have to do because it's good for you. You just know
Mm,
that it's going to be better if you do it than if you don't. And I
mhm,
do think if we treat exercise like that, more people would do it because you don't have to love it. You don't have to enjoy it. It is better if you do.
mm,
It's more incentive to do it. But sometimes I do think that just like showing up and doing it in smaller spurts, you know, in ways that feel again, like they fit into your life, that's
Mhm.
the thing that you want to get into. There are ways to make it more enjoyable, honestly. Like I do wonder with some of those people if it's like, did it start off too hard? Like what I would be curious what made someone not enjoy it. If it was
Mhm.
like it leveled up too fast or if it wasn't challenging enough, then you can play around with those variables. Some of it is like I do think this is why personal trainers have a job. Like hire the person that's gonna, you can talk to them while you do
Yeah.
it. Like if it's someone that you enjoy, that will help the time pass better than doing it on your own. If it's cardio that you're trying to get into, like put on a podcast, you like watch a show. Like there are a lot of ways now that you can just like tweak it, you know, to make it a
Mm.
little bit more enjoyable for yourself, but still get through it and get it done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And so personally, what I did, because I really did not enjoy cardio, like it was not comfortable for me. It's hard for me, and I did not enjoy that. But strength training was,
Hmm.
I don't know why I found it easier and more enjoyable. So
Hmm.
what I decided to do is to do strength training and then a little bit of cardio. So
Hmm.
when I would exercise for, let's say, an hour, I would have this 15 minutes or this even 10 minutes of very
Yes. Start
things
small.
that I didn't like, but I knew that I would do the strength training, and for me, I like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, just creating these small habits and having
Hmm.
this small goal at the beginning. It doesn't have to be 10 or 15 minutes. It can be
Yeah.
just 4 minutes, just a song,
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
and then increase the time over time. And so for me personally, I like maintenance because
Yeah.
I don't like, my job is not to do strength training and to be great in nutrition. I'm a full-time student and I have a lot of
Hmm.
projects, and so I don't particularly have at the time to like spend hours doing exercise every day. And so I really try to do small things and then also maintaining what my level, so that I know
Yeah.
now that when I have to exercise, it's just maintenance and it doesn't
Yeah.
require a lot of efforts. It's just maintaining what I
Totally.
have.
It's also so much easier to keep doing it than to stop and start over again, which is I
Yeah.
think what a lot of people dread is they've gone through that like window of like a month or two of like it feels tough, and then maybe they get bored and then they stop. And then when you start
Mhm.
again, it really is like starting from square one, and
Yes.
it feels like this mountain to climb again. Whereas if you just keep it up, it ends up feeling, you know, way
Yeah.
less hard than the
Yeah,
start
definitely.
process.
And it's the small things that add up, like having small habits but that you do consistently, that what
Yes,
makes the difference. Not the small
definitely.
things that you can stick to it like maximum 4 weeks and then that's it. That's
Yeah.
worthless.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do think people throw away those small goals quite a lot because they think it doesn't add up to anything. But like, I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. When I first was getting into exercise, it was HIIT training, like high intensity interval training, which I
Mhm.
still do, just not as often. And there were 12-minute exercises. There were body weight at home, 12 minutes, and it was like I could wrap my head around that. I could, like, of course, I can do 12 minutes a day, no
Yeah.
problem. There were hard 12 minutes, but you know, that's such a tiny part of your day.
Yeah.
And so that for me was enough to like do it consistently. I feel like it was the same way like going plant-based, where it was like with them, I was like, yeah, I could not eat meat. Like there's plenty of foods to eat. And then once you like wrap your head around that, you can really like grow from there. But you got to
Yeah.
get that like baseline belief of just showing up consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of just out of curiosity, what kind of um, habit changes, tips and advice did you give to some of your clients when it comes to food and exercise? Because they're probably really busy people, and so sorry. For busy people, like what kind of advice can you give when it comes to creating long-term habits when it comes to diet and exercise?
So we just went over one, which is one of my biggest one, which is start smaller than you think.
Yeah.
And so I definitely like I'm consistency over perfection all the time. So it's just about the showing up when you're first doing it. So that's one. When it comes to like changing your diet, a lot of those habits come down to things like having the right foods around. So
Mhm.
it is really like when you go to the grocery store, like your new habit is going to be, you know, shop the perimeter. You're getting more whole foods. There's a learning curve there, sort of in knowing what to be, because you're not just removing foods, you have to like be replacing them with other foods. And so
Exactly.
there is a learning curve there in terms of like, okay, instead of grabbing, the beef, I'll get the beans, and I'm going
Mhm.
to make sure I'm getting my greens in there and whatever.
Mhm.
So the first habit that I like to get people to do, if they haven't already, is like having the right food for you to choose from when you do have that choice. And then
Mhm.
after that, the smaller habits become, what are you reaching for? Is there something as quickly as you need it? That's a thing with a lot of people, is the like, they think there's like a lot of prep for plant-based food, and I think that could be true. But I'm also like, literally, like, fruit and nuts are like the fastest snacks. Like, if you have them in
Yeah.
front of you, they're healthy foods that you can eat quite quickly if you're
Mhm.
looking for something, fast
Mhm.
as a snack. The meals themselves, I don't know that they take longer than the meals you're cooking already. All these little things
Yeah.
that I'm sort of like, they're barriers that you have in your head, but once you put them
Mhm.
into practice, you realize the habit shift is quite small once you know what to do.
Yeah.
So those little things, preparing for bad days is one that I do urge people to do. You're
That's
not going to
interesting.
have, every day is not going to be perfect. So on that day when things go wrong, you haven't planned a meal, what's the option for you? Like, try to plan for that day that
Mm.
is going to be not as good. So I always have, like, Go Macro bar, like a plant-based protein bar or snack bar. I have fruit on my counter, like the nuts and seeds are out where I can see them, they're not hidden away. There's like little things that you can do to just like be encouraging yourself to make those choices, because you're giving yourself the options,
Mhm.
in those
Yeah.
cases. And then uh, the biggest one that I have is like, be gentle with yourself in those
Mhm.
moments when things go wrong. Like, don't let it derail you forever. Like, if you have a bad day, you have a couple bad days, you're stressed out, like, this happens, just
Mhm.
try again tomorrow,
Yeah.
another shot tomorrow.
Exactly. It's not because we fail just one
Totally.
day that we have to stop and that it's a total
Yeah.
failure, because we're human beings and it's
Yeah.
totally normal not to be perfect. And that's
Yeah.
part of the journey. It's some ups and downs, but
Yeah.
more like we have to be steady and
Yeah.
and try to focus on our goals. And also I think knowing the why is really important.
I was just
Why?
about to say it, the underneath all of this, I think the most important thing is, like, on those days when it didn't go well, or when you're questioning why you're doing it, or you're feeling like you don't want to do it, you have to have a really strong reason that you want to keep doing it.
Mhm.
And if that's not there, like, the habits won't stick for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's why what made me change my way of eating, because I was not eating any veggies. The only veggie that I liked was carrots or
Mhm.
potatoes,
Mhm.
which is a storage. So yeah, I was just eating, I hated soups, I hated any other
Oh,
vegetable.
interesting.
And
Like the taste of it?
yeah, I all the things that looked green, I didn't want to even
Yeah.
taste. And the
Interesting.
texture and everything, I just didn't like it. And then when I learned the health benefit that it would have on me, on my skin, on my digestive system, on my mental
Mhm.
health, and I
Mhm.
saw that all of this was backed up with science. It was not just a matter of, oh, eat vegetables because if you want to lose weight, then you have to eat vegetables.
Yes.
But I didn't need to lose the weight, so why would I eat
Yeah.
veggies? But
Right.
actually, it's way more than that. Losing the weight being overweight is a symptom of something that doesn't work internally in your body. It's not the sickness itself.
Mhm.
So vegetables do, and fibers and plant-based foods does so much to our health. And once I realized that the health benefits of it, it was strong enough to make me try these types of foods. And then I also switched my mindset. I wanted to love vegetables, so I made
Yeah.
everything to love the vegetables. I watched YouTube videos on some recipes and just like seeing them
Mhm.
cutting the
It
veggies.
helps that the food tastes very good.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. And just watching like so nice YouTube videos of people like making bowls and meals. It was colorful, and then I could hear the
Mhm.
crunch, and
Mhm.
all this made me like and want to try vegetables. So when you
Yeah.
have why, when you know why you're doing a shift, then you're
Yeah.
going to implement all the habits you need and all the mindset you need to have to make that happen. But at the end of the day, you have to know why you do this. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, so for example, people that want to lose weight, losing weight is not a good enough reason. It's losing weight because
Because yeah,
yeah, because I
what
want
are you
to,
missing out on? What do you want?
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like because one like obviously now I have like multiple whys that I can lean on, but one of them that you made me think of is the health piece of it. So like I don't know what your background is with your family, but like given the rate of disease, I just feel like it's so common. But you know, in my family, cardiovascular disease is there, diabetes is there, cancers are there. So when it does come to the science around, you know, the shifts that we can make in our everyday life
Mhm.
to prevent those kinds of diseases, I don't think anything's a magic bullet, but I'm just like, if there are things in my control that I
Exactly.
can take advantage of, get the most from, and that is one of them. Is plant-based nutrition. I do think promotes so much health in us, um, and so having seen people suffer from illness for me is a huge motivator. Where I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I would like to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can, if at all possible. So that's a big one for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And just to wrap up, I've seen my grandparents, my mother's parents, who had worked out, and they always had some kind of physical activity. They were doing hiking. My grandmother was always doing she was always working out 3 times a week. My
Mhm.
grandfather was playing tennis at 80 years old.
Mhm.
They would still drive and go to the gym together to do some workouts.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, so he had cancer at 70, and the doctors told him you can't live more than few years, and he was able to live way more than what the doctors told him, because he didn't have the body of an 80-year-old
Mhm.
grandfather. He had a younger body, and that's because
Mhm.
of exercise and nutrition.
Mhm.
And so I just see that as an example. And I'm like, if at 23, I don't move my body, I don't work out, I don't eat
Yes.
healthy, I'm not going to be like them at 80. And I really
Yeah.
want that. And so also prepare, like, being old is not something bad, but it's just something you have to prepare. And
Yeah.
it starts now. And
It
it
does.
might
It's
be
so hard,
silly.
but I
Yeah.
do try to remind people. I'm like, think about yourself as an old person because this is what
Yeah,
we're building now. So it
exactly.
matters.
Yeah. So to wrap up, I have a final question that I ask
Mhm.
everyone.
Mhm.
Sachi, what's your preferred healthy food?
Oh my God. This is such a hard, I don't even know how anyone answers. Like one food?
One food, you have to pick one. I mean, you first have to pick your first choice, and then we can talk about all the foods you
Other
like.
ones. The first one, this is an impossible question. The first one that came to mind is red bell pepper. So red
Interesting.
peppers are just like in terms of like nutrient density, one of my favorite foods, and I put them in so many things, like raw or cooked, because
Hmm.
they're so flavorful. So just that was the one that jumped out to me. So I'm gonna go with that. But
Nice.
there's
Do
so
you
many.
snack also on bell peppers?
I do. I like bell peppers with hummus. It's an
Yeah.
easy snack. Carrots
Yeah.
and peppers with hummus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's delicious. Yeah, for me, I would say, so I have a lot. So I'm very privileged because on this podcast, I can pick another preferred healthy food each time. So for me today, I would say avocado. I
Oh, it's a
really,
great
really
one.
love avocado.
Hmm.
And I just, avocado toast are just the best.
Yep.
In France, we have amazing sourdough breads. So
Mm,
I would
yes.
some avocado on whole wheat sourdough bread with a squeeze of lemon juice, salt and pepper,
Yes.
some seeds, arugula, if I'm being
Hmm.
fancy, and it's just so, so, so delicious.
Amazing. Yes, I love
Yeah.
avocado. It's a good one.
Yeah. Sachi, it was great talking to you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'll make sure to post this episode this month.
Hmm.
And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Sachi. See you.
Bye.